This video was made possible by Dashlane. Stay safe online for 10% off by being one of the first 200 to use the code HAI at checkout. Here at Half as Interesting, we take a firm stance against assault, arson, kidnapping, adult snapping on subway benches, pickles, slow walkers, referring to travelators as moving walkways, people using the iPhone alarm sound as their ringtone, nuclear proliferation, the under toilet paper orientation, wind faster than 15 miles per hour, murder, mosquitoes, referring to personal flotation devices as life jackets, Bombardier CRJ200s, square earthers, 3D movies, Crocs, the lack of video editing function on YouTube, underhydration, and stealing. Well, maybe I should be more specific. Here at Half as Interesting, we don't condone stealing when it's illegal. When stealing is legal, on the other hand, go for it. You see, there are times when stealing someone's house can be totally 100% legal. If you're wondering how, allow me to introduce you to a little something called adverse possession. Adverse possession, commonly called squatter's rights, is a legal process whereby a person trespassing on someone else's property, if they stay there long enough, actually becomes the legal owner of that property. In other words, if the trespasser trespasses long enough, they not only become not a trespasser, they also become the owner. It would be like saying that if you pretend you own a country for long enough, you would actually end up owning that country. Britain. Now, in what is the least surprising thing since the violation of the Treaty of Versailles, adverse possession, the principle of sitting on land long enough until you own it, derives from Old English common law. See, back in ye olde days, when lands were constantly being conquered and pillaged and stolen, it was often hard to know who legally owned property. So instead of figuring it out, the courts kinda just shrugged and decided that if someone had managed to live on a piece of property for long enough, they were probably its rightful owner. Somehow, those laws have continued to exist until today. In several formerly or presently crumpet-consuming countries, including England, Australia, and the United States, adverse possession remains the law of the land. Today, adverse possession is usually used for minor land disputes between neighbors. For example, if you have a fence that technically goes a bit into your neighbor's property and you've maintained that area for several years, it's possible you can claim it through adverse possession. But in some cases, it can be used for much more than that, with squatters successfully using it to claim entire houses as their own. Now, I'd like to welcome you to the segment called HAI's Super Cool, Super Accurate Legal Advice. I'm not a lawyer, this isn't legal advice, please don't sue me. Before you get all excited and decide you're going to steal your neighbor's house, you should know that there are 5 specific criteria that must be met in order for adverse possession to work. First, the possession must be hostile. That doesn't mean you have to invade with trebuchets, the gentleman's weapon, but it does mean that you must, in fact, be on the land without the owner's permission. You have to actually be trespassing. Otherwise, for example, people who are renting or borrowing a house might be able to claim ownership under adverse possession. So, pro tip, put a sign up inviting anyone in and then nobody can claim adverse possession. Criteria dos. The possession must be actual. That means that not only must the trespasser actually be on the property, they also must be using it as if it was their own and actively maintaining it. You have to be living there and doing the stuff that a normal homeowner would do, mending the hedges, mowing the fences, watering the windows, taking out the lawn, weeding the trash, the normal stuff. Criteria number C. The possession must be open and notorious. In other words, you can't be hiding the fact that you live there. So don't worry, if someone is hiding in your attic for 5 years, they can't suddenly take you to court and claim they own your house. Open and notorious possession means that the trespasser must be living there clearly and openly in such a way that the real owner, if they were paying any attention at all, would be able to know that they were there and kick them out. Criteria number IV. The possession must be exclusive. The person or people claiming the property must be the only ones living there. The owner cannot be living on or using the property at any point. If they do, then your claim is gone. Which means that if you've been on the property for years waiting to take adverse possession, if the real owner even stops by to use the bathroom, the clock starts over again. It is for this reason that in New York, for example, where there are plenty of privately owned courtyards open to the public, many of these are barricaded off by their owners once a year just to prove the owner's domination of the land so that nobody can live on and subsequently claim the courtyards. And finally, criteria number 5. The possession must be continuous. You must continuously live on the property for a certain period of time. That doesn't mean you can never leave, you can go to the grocery store or on a normal vacation, but you must be using the property the way that a normal property owner would. You can't go to an abandoned house once or twice over several years and claim it. How long you have to live there depends on the state or nation's laws. It can be as short as 5 or as long as 40 years. But once you reach that magic number, boom, you own the place. Assuming you succeed in proving you meet the criteria in a complex and expensive legal process. Nonetheless, people successfully apply the law of adverse possession all the time in countries where it exists, often fixing up and living in abandoned buildings. Now, if you become an adverse possession master, you might end up with quite a few houses, and they'd be safe because you probably have a different key to each house. That way, if you lose a key, only one of your houses would be compromised rather than all. If that makes sense, then why would you use the same password on all your online accounts? You should have different passwords for each site, but you'll never be able to remember them all unless you use Dashlane. Dashlane securely stores all your passwords in one place and autofills them when you go to log in. More than that though, Dashlane is an online security toolbox, so it includes plenty of other features including a VPN, secure file storage, dark web monitoring, and more. You can start using some of Dashlane's features for free, or for less than the price of most standalone VPNs, you can get Dashlane Premium with all their features for 10% off by being one of the first 200 to use the code HAI at dashlane.com/HAI.